So welcome, darlings, to the Wild Creatrix Cafe. I'm your host, Adela Rubio, author, coach, Wild Creatrix, and lover of deep and delightful conversations. And in the Wild Creatrix Cafe, we'll explore how creators get their gifts and projects out into the world and how you can too. We'll explore how to unleash your wild creative genius, discover ways to share it, and connect you to a creative and caring community that shares your vision and supports you in bringing it into being. In today's session, I am super delighted to bring one of my friends and longtime collaborators and Wild Creatrix herself, Rose Diamond. She's an author and coach, has over 40 years as a whole person educator, a Gestalt therapist, and personal and professional development trainer. Rose is a lover of evolving consciousness and delights in bringing your soul's inspiration down to earth in your own practical, accessible, and fulfilling ways. Welcome, Rose.
Hey, hi Adela. It's lovely to be here. Always loving having conversations with you.
I know, me too. We we swim in the same ponds and bring, you know, a collective of experience and exploration that's always delightful. I know that you are you've been in this game a really long time, and I know that you have a new creative project. So I was wondering, what was it that sparked this new book that you wrote?
Okay, there's a big plane going over. I don't know if you can hear that at the moment. Well, basically, I've been in this inquiry for a year now into the experience of wholeness. What does it mean to experience wholeness, and how can we maintain that no matter what's going on in the world? Because there's so much going on in the world just now that it's very easy to be distracted by all sorts of things on the inside and the outside. Quite honestly, I can't remember what sparked it. It just began and turned into a book. That was the first thing. I've just had an incredibly focused creative year this year. First of all, there was the book, and then after that, I've developed a couple of transformational programs, and now I'm relaunching Tribe in Transition. So it's the inquiry into wholeness has kind of given rise to this year of very focused creativity, and I think that's one of the things for me that makes the difference. You know, I don't know what I would actually do in my life if I wasn't a creatrix. You know, my creativity and tapping into that is one of the most important things for me in terms of supporting me, you know, supporting me. And it doesn't just support me, it also plugs me into a much bigger intelligence. So this is like my meditation, if you like. It's my practice, my spiritual practice. It's not just about, you know, creating a product that I'm going to put out into the world. That's part of it, but it's much more than that. It's about how do I sustain myself? And I find that having an inquiry, first of all, is very sustaining, because I'm always learning something and, you know, diving deeper and discovering more about what it means to be a human being. That's sustaining. And then the writing and is sustaining, and then the connecting with others, bringing what I brought to others and including them in the conversation. So it's all like a continuum of the way that I bring my gifts into play in a way that it's that giving and receiving at the same time. You know, it gives to me just as much as I give out. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a brief summary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get it as someone who the pathway, and I think so many of us have discovered this, and I think that this is one of the really key points that I want to bring into being with this series, is that we are these highly creative beings, and some of us just, you know, get that at one point, and we just like, it just takes us and we go with it. I mean, how many you've written a lot of books. You've done a lot of programs. You've created community and circles. I mean, I've been around you for a little while, so I've seen, you know, just in the time that I've known you, the things that just come forth from you. But each one of us can, you know, has that capacity, has that ability. So part of my inquiry is, you know, how do each one of us do it? You know, how does that get started, and how do we nurture that, and how do we bring it out? And so what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, that inquiry is kind of like what leads you, you know, into the depth, you know, so that you go in and you come out and you bring something, and you do it within yourself, and you also then do it and you bring it out, and then through the connection with others, you know, it even takes more shape.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole thing is like is a conversation. And I think once you've got the question actually opens the space, and then the answers start to come. And that's the conversation with soul, what I call soul, you know, the answers can come in all sorts of ways. They can come through, you know, I pick up a book and there's an answer. I have a conversation and there's an answer. You know, I live in a quite a secluded, reclusive kind of way, but things just kind of, you know, arrive on my door, you know, my doorstep. I don't have to go out and look for them. So that conversation, that question rather, inquiry question is like the hook that starts to bring the answers in. And then, you know, so those are like the seed ideas. And then as a writer, then I start to develop that, and I'm listening more to more answers coming in. And then, as you say, at a certain point, I bring that out and have a conversation with others. And they, you know, that's a bigger conversation. And I'm also having a conversation with the universe, because I'm really opening my mind to those much bigger sources of inspiration. So it's like I might appear to be sitting at home on my own, but I'm having all these kind of multiple conversations. And that's really exciting. I find that very exciting.
Yeah, I just love writing as that process. I host writing circles, and one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is, you know, of course I have a context. Usually I have a theme or a topic, because, you know, a container is kind of helpful where we explore, then we go into the inquiry. But I am amazed at the through lines that occur in the writing when we write together. Like, even like the same phrases will pop up. So I know about this, you know, it seems like you might be in isolation, but writing is a cosmic process. You know, it connects you. It's one of the ways that you put out that inquiry. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you was, like, how do you know which inquiry to hone in on? How do you know, you know, whatever, here's the shining light, this is the one I'm going to follow? How do you know?
That's a great question, and a difficult one to answer. I would say it's whatever has the most, that I have the most appetite for. You know, it's got to be juicy. I mean, when I started this inquiry a year ago into wholeness, I didn't know that was going to last for a year. You know, it was just, that was what was up for me at that moment. And I think, you know, people who are creative and also conscious, we are somehow tapping in to the collective consciousness as well. You know, we're receiving our directions, if you like, from all these different, you know, from the cosmos, from the collective, from everywhere. And so, yeah, for me, it's whatever has the greatest oomph to it, whatever has the greatest appetite to it. That's what I follow, and I will then follow it until I've had enough of it. You know, so it's like I'll feast on wholeness, and not right now. I feel like I'm now getting into the next. You know, it's the next inquiry is sort of emerging for me, and it's tied up with what we were talking about before we started recording. So it's like, yes, I'll go all the way with it until I feel like I've not so much I've exhausted them, but that's complete. Yeah, about a week ago, I just thought, I've just finished a big piece of work. It's complete. Now I can rest, and then there'll be the next thing will emerge. But it's a kind of natural, organic arising. It's not just from the head. It's from the whole being.
Yeah, and that I wanted to go into this wholeness, and kind of like, what were some of your discoveries, you know, of this whole, I know you wrote the book, but at least you know, you could highlight on what were some of your discoveries around wholeness?
Okay. How long have you got?
Well, that's what I said. Just a little bit, because I know it's a lot. Or maybe
Yeah, okay.
maybe the top three things that maybe surprised you about wholeness.
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes up is that, you know, we're all always and already whole. It's not that, you know, we've got to go and find wholeness. It's always here. We're born whole. Wholeness is always within us. And I think it's for most of us who have been on a sort of spiritual personal development path, it's been, our practice has been, how do we get rid of what's ever keeping us from that experience of wholeness? So we might have that experience of wholeness in moments, and then it disappears again, and we sort of maybe go back into suffering or whatever. And you know, I'm finding more and more now that I spend more time, a lot more time in that place of wholeness, but I'm still can get tweaked back into an experience of limitation or pain, or you know, there's more to clear. I think I'm, you know, that's getting less as the time goes by. So that's the first thing, that we're always whole. And I guess the reason why I think this is so important for us collectively at the moment is, well, I don't have to say what a mess the world's in. You know, I sort of, in the UK at the moment, we're in a constitutional crisis. The US is in a similar sort of situation. All over the world, we're in turmoil. And so I think for those of us who are able, you know, maybe just a matter of just holding that space of peace and contentment and stillness is what could make the difference to how things unfold from here. So as this inquiry is continued, I feel like there's less and less that I actually have to do, and it's more about the quality of being. So I think that's what wholeness is really about. It's that inner experience of completion. Nothing is missing. It's all here. I don't have to go and look for anything. You know, I don't have to quest. I don't have to strive. You know, it's all here. And the more that I realize that inside myself, then the more I attract to me whoever and whatever, you know, can connect with me in that place, and it builds, you know. So it's those are my first top thoughts about wholeness.
So we were talking before we started recording. I love this because I'm in exactly the same place. I remember when I used to think that peace might be a little boring. and just finding, so one of the things we were talking about was this less is more quality, right? Less is more. And you're talking about just peace and joy, and just feeling that sense of, I have everything here. There's no, you know, there's no questing. What are some of the other qualities that kind of might be signposts that you're in this wholeness? Because I think I love, because I haven't known really what to call it. So I'm going to be calling it wholeness now. Thank you very much. Because I've been talking about this in my writing circles and in my own calls for months now. I've been feeling like this for quite some time. And I'm just wondering, what are some of those signposts, those things that let you know you're in wholeness?
Yeah, great. Well, what you mentioned, the peace, the contentment, sense of a feeling of fulfillment, being filled up, you know, almost sometimes filled up to overflowing. So there's a sense of gratitude. Also inspiration, you know, feeling that that's part of it too. Inspiration, connection, feeling really connected. You know, I have this morning ritual in my house. I have this most amazing view, and outside I have a wooden bench, and if it's a nice day, I just go and sit out there for half an hour. If it's the sun shining, that's great. And I'm just basically communing with nature. You know, I'm communing with the birds, and the cats come along, you know, and there's the bees and the butterflies, and sometimes there's sheep, and I just feel totally connected. So connection, being connected with self, with others, with life, you know, with life, that's a really important part of it. But I think mostly for me, it is this feeling of abundance. You know, abundance to me does not have anything to do with having lots of money or anything on the inside. It's all about it's like when I'm in wholeness, I'm connected to the wellspring, you know, and that this spring of life and goodness and love is continually moving through me. I mean, what more do you need, really? So that doesn't mean to say that that I don't want money or anything like that. It's more that I think the more we develop this wholeness inside ourselves and radiate it out, then everything we need beyond that comes to us naturally. So I think this is the most important practice for me is I practice every day being in wholeness. It's like bringing myself back to wholeness. If I lose it for a moment, if I get frustrated or irritated or stressed, okay, just breathe, come back. If I have a sort of I need to do more healing and I go into that, then move through that as fast as I can in a way. Don't get caught up in it, don't get addicted to it, just let it move through and then come back to the wholeness, because the more I'm here in this place, the more delicious it is. I don't want to be anywhere else. But it's a practice, and that's what I'm offering to others now is come and join me in this practice. Let's support each other. And then, like you say, people come along and they understand this language, and so the conversation is very rich. And that when we have this conversation, well, this is what I've been experiencing, then it's supportive. If we've been going through bumpy times or difficult times, then we talk about that. Then we can quickly uplift ourselves back into the more expanded, inspired state. So that's what it's all about for me at the moment, Adela.
I love it. I love the simplicity of it. As someone who for a long time was a seeker, I mean, even on a trip to India and all of that, I am familiar with complex practices and complex systems. And this is one of the things that I'm discovering too, is the simplicity of it. The other thing I'd love for you to to maybe talk a little bit about is, how does this shift? Because I love that you're saying listen, I'm still here in the world, but my being in it is different. How does that impact the challenges that occur in life just by being in the world? There are going to be, it's not like, you've got your rosy colored glasses and nothing ever goes wrong again. How does this embodiment of your wholeness impact challenges and how you face them?
That's another great question, Adela. So, I called my book Whole Mind, Whole World, because I think when we are in this state of wholeness, it's not just about me as an individual. I'm connected to everything, and the more that I've been doing my own healing, the more compassionate I've come towards human nature. So for me, it's been a process of, so wholeness includes everything. It's not just about the good times and the inspired times and the expanded times. It's also about, can I accept my meanness? Can I accept my jealousy? Can I accept, can I invite everything that is human into my container, into the community of myself, and so the more that I can accept those parts of myself that I've cut off, because they haven't been socially acceptable, so maybe it hasn't been socially acceptable to be angry. So I've learned how to damp that down, or hasn't been socially acceptable. What else might it be? To be, the shame or the abuse or the trauma or any of those, really difficult things that so many of us go through. For me, it's about kind of redeeming the energy that's being caught up in those repressed parts of being human, and include getting to know as much as I can about what it means to be a human being. Okay, I'm a spiritual being here to have a human experience, but my practice is to find out what it means to be human. And so the more I can accept my own humanity in all its different aspects, then the more I can accept yours and others, which doesn't mean to say that I then tolerate all sorts of behaviors. In fact, I'm more intolerant of lots of behaviors than I ever was before, but it means that I just have a more compassionate it's a paradox, because there is the compassion on the one hand and there's the intolerance on the other hand. I feel like I'm not putting out any more resistance to life. I'm just allowing it to be what it is, and so I'm not fighting against life. And I think the more of us that are doing that, then the more life can flow, in the way that it needs to flow, in its goodness. So yes, for me, it's about how we come to a full understanding of being human. And I think it's only from that place that we can actually start to evolve into the kind of society that I think so many of us would like to see. It can only come from this place of wholeness, is how I understand it.
Yeah.
It can't come from striving. It can't come from waving flags. It can't come from trying to make it happen. It can come from, as we evolve individually and then in our little circles, and then spread those out. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, I love what I'm hearing. It reminds me of that Rumi, the piece in the guest house where he talks about, inviting it all and welcoming it all, right?
Yes,
and I think that when you do that, it's about really owning our dynamic experience, that all of life is a flow. So it also means, aside from resistance, also, if we get angry about other things and just holding on to that anger, those kind of experiences too, that may have to do either with ourselves or other people. I think that compassion that you're talking about, which I have found with myself, I'm like, I've been, because sometimes we can be the hardest on ourselves, even harder than we are on other people. So finding that compassion, that flow of just welcoming it all in, and realizing that all of this is part of our human experience, and we don't have to hold on to one bit, either the joy or the pain, just allowing it all. And somehow there's just something so beautifully freeing in that.
Yes.
That like sometimes I'm like smiling and happy for no reason at all. There's no reason. There hasn't been some cause as to why I'm happy or feeling joy. It's just moving through me. It's it's that celebration of life, like you just feel that happiness. Or you could be outside, but like yesterday I was driving and there was this squirrel that scooted out, and I waited until it scooted back. Like there are just these little moments. And it was so funny because I had someone else in the car with me, and they were like, "Don't run." I'm like, I wasn't going to run over the squirrel, for goodness sake. You know what I'm saying? It's just, there's this honoring of life, and that honoring of life in and of itself feels joyful.
Yeah.
Feels joyful. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, exactly. And then it's also honoring the times when I'm not feeling joyful. That's also part of that. That's also part of the wholeness. I think we've been misled in a way by some of the teachings, the spiritual teachings. Like we should, if we are really onto it, then we can always be happy, or we can always be abundant, or we can always be this. And I that's not how I'm seeing it now. I see it, it's about embracing everything. It's about, in a way, there's a sort of there's a kind of neutral place, there's a non-attached place in the center of this experience of wholeness, which is just witnessing and allowing and accepting and loving what is. And it's when we resist that it prolongs it, so if I start, I'm feeling low and I start to judge myself, then I'm actually probably going to my mood is going to get lower and lower. Whereas if I can suspend the judgment and just say, okay, I'm feeling a bit low today, but I'm going to take it easy and love myself. And, then it passes. So it's removing all those obstacles. Life is a flow, it's a flow. And how can we remove the obstacles to that flow and just let it happen, which means giving up a lot of our desire to control.
Yeah, and ideas too. I remember just on yesterday's call, somebody, I host these writing circles, and it was somebody else's turn to lead, and she led us through this really simple guided meditation, which was impromptu. And I have a particular challenge that's probably close to almost 40 years. Talk about, there's still being issues and problems. And it's so interesting because during that meditation, I just got this feeling, these three, and these words are overused. They almost seem trite. Let it go, and in that letting go, and I got in my body in that moment, I let it go. Doesn't mean that I might not hook onto it later, but I felt that, and the insight that I got around that was like, this thing looks like a challenge, but look at how it's propelled me to find answers and to explore. Look at who I've become as a consequence of this thing that has driven me crazy for almost 40 years. And it's intimate relationships for me tends to be my particular thing that has led me on the path to really exploring. So even those things and this is one of the things that I'm hearing, even those things that challenge us, they shape us. So in the end, it's, that it's an inquiry. Again, it's an inquiry.
Yeah.
And being on that inquiry takes you to a place that you would not have gone to otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's the same, so it's like I started saying, it's inquiries is a conversation, and it's like, we have a conversation and it can lead both of us to a new place, because we just jump in and go with it and respond, and the flow goes backwards and forwards. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So any tips or in terms of folks finding their way to this wholeness, any recommendations you can make?
Yes. Well, as I've said, for me, this is a practice. It's a daily practice. So, wholeness has to be invited. It has to be nurtured. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be cultivated. And so I think a daily practice where we simply, make some time every day for being and nurturing ourselves is the best way to do this. I've kind of developed what I'm calling a build your soul sanctuary practice, where I kind of invite people over a number of days, over 21 days or, several weeks, to build this. It's like building a rhythm of practice. I mean, many of us may have had meditation practice over the years, or yoga practices. I know I stopped meditating formally, quite a while ago, but, as I said earlier, something like just going outside and sitting on the bench and communing with the sky, that's my practice. Writing can be a practice. So writing, in the past I've kind of written a poem every morning, but it's the daily choosing to spend some time focusing on this connection with life, and in whatever way that feels natural and easy for you. But I think it's that steady, consistent practice that actually creates the results. I've seen that in my own life, and I'm seeing that with people other people I'm inviting into this as well. It's gentle. It's there's no sort of big it's not a big transformational process, or something you've got to spend a lot of money on. It's very gentle, daily choice. Simple, really simple. So I'm sure your writing practices probably have the same effect of bringing you into that place of connection.
I always combine both, because I find that it informs your writing practice. So a moment of connection before we even write, the writing is next level.
Yes.
It provides a deeper access so that you get to experience that part of you that is connected to everything. And that's where it all comes from. So I know that you are masterful at leading these explorations. So I wondered if you could guide us through just a moment of wholeness practice.
Yes. Okay. So I'd just like to lead a short meditation, guided meditation. So if you'd like to close your eyes and just let go into your inner world. Just following the breath gently in and out. Gliding on the breath. So there's no pushing, there's no striving, simply being with the breath in the body, right here, right now. And just let your awareness move through your body, noticing the energy in your body now. Feel your feet, for example, connected as you connect to the floor, the earth beneath. Feel the energy in your feet. And as you bring your next breath up, breathe that right in from your feet, up from the earth through your feet, through your legs, up into your body, right up into your heart. And just breathe gently into your heart. Noticing any sensations in your chest. Noticing the expansion and contraction of your rib cage as you breathe. And as you breathe into your heart, just imagine that your heart is this beautiful golden flower, radiating light. And each time you breathe in to this flower, maybe it's a lily, maybe it's a water lily, just floating there. In the pond of your heart, the lake of your heart, this beautiful lily. And each time you breathe, the lily is opening a little bit more to the sun, towards the sky, releasing its light, its beauty. And this lily is suspended on the water, the calm, peaceful waters. Held. There's no effort involved. You're just held, suspended. And at the same time, your roots are going down from this water lily, down through the water, into the mud, connecting with the earth. So as this beautiful lily, you're connected with the earth, you're connected with the water, you're connected with the fire of the sun, you're connected with the air. And you're expanded, you're open. You feel the fullness of you, the beauty of you. It's that you're opening, your petals are opening to their full potential, their full stretch. Totally safe, totally held. Just floating, just being. And you can imagine out that maybe this isn't just your own little pond. Maybe you're in a big pond or a big lake covered in water lilies. And all the water lilies are also open, giving out their beauty, receiving the light of the sun. So we're all here together, a whole lake full of water lilies, just being, just glorying in nature and in life. Nothing to do and nowhere to go. So just feel that peace, that beauty, that stillness in your heart. And imagine that just gently rippling out into the rest of the world. Maybe those ripples are going to people who are not feeling so peaceful just now. They will be touched. Just the ripples of your own being and consciousness and love are rippling out now into the world, making a difference, touching others, connecting. To feel that, bring your awareness down into your feet again and feel your connection with the ground beneath. Feel this connection through your heart with the collective, the bigger we, which we're all part, the whole world. And then just bringing your awareness up to the crown chakra on the top of your head. And imagining that that too is a beautiful lotus flower. Silvery violet lotus flower, also opening to the cosmos and to the universal intelligence, to the abundant source of inspiration, the infinite. So much support for us here, so much sustenance. Just feel that life force moving through you now, through your body, gently. Gentle vibration maybe. You are alive, you're connected, you're supported. You're held. You make a difference. And with your next breath, just letting go. And then gently bringing yourself back into the light of day.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I know you have a gift for folks, but before we go on to the gift, any parting thoughts? Anything you want to
I just feel incredibly grateful at the moment. It's so lovely to be invited and to have this conversation with you, and to feel so resonant with you, and to know that this, the ripples are going out to other people and they'll be touched by it, and then they will ripple out to others, and it's so simple.
I know. I was thinking, that was my favorite part. Like when you mentioned all the other water lilies in the pond, I was like, yes, all the other water lilies. We know so many of those water lilies, right? We're so connected. Our communities are full of these beings that are brilliant and amazing. And I think that one of the things that happens as a consequence of this practice is, I'm so moved by it, is you realize that we are such lights. We are so surrounded. Every human being has such light, such potential, so much glorious genius. And through this simple practice of just taking a moment of just connecting on this daily practice, it'll arise in you, and then it shifts how you see things and how you see others. And And when we see others in their brilliance and their light and their gifts, it changes everything. It changes them, it changes us. It's just beautiful. I'm so grateful for our connection. We connected many, many years ago. You're one of the lights in my world, Rose. Thank you so much for who you are and all you bring to the party. It's really amazing. Do you want to tell us anything about this, this gift that you are offering listeners?
Just a little bit, yeah. So I've written a very short ebook. It's called Nurture Your Soul, and it basically just introduces Tribe in Transition, which is my tribe, and I'm at a new place with Tribe in Transition. Actually, you know, Adela, we've known each other for 10 years, and it feels very fitting that I'm meeting with you today, because that was really the beginning of me meeting you. Was the beginning of me doing stuff online, but I've had this 10-year journey of, you know, doing such a lot of work, and now I've come back to this place of real simplicity. But I'm starting a whole new phase with Tribe in Transition, and basically this is what I'm offering. I'm, you know, my main gift is to offer people spaces where they can come together, connect with their wholeness and creativity, and I call them soul sanctuary circles. So the ebook I've put together will kind of introduce me and my work to people, and I've also put together 5 days of very simple practices. There are 3 recorded meditations in there, and so just really encouraging people to, you know, if not doing it already, to just try this simple, you know, 10 minutes, half an hour every day of just connecting with wholeness. I think it will make a huge difference in this time of turmoil. I really think it does make a hu/ difference. So
absolutely. And folks can find that at tribeintransition.net /nurture-your-soul. I will include a link, so that makes it easy peasy. And also on Rose's website, you can also find her new book. I will also include a link to that, Whole Mind, Whole World. It is always a pleasure and an honor to have, you know, a chat with you, my friend. There's just too much deliciousness to keep to ourselves.
I'd like to do this more often, actually. It's so good talking with you.
I know. There's no reason we can't. Thank you so much, Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.